Snick is coming.
On August 15th, 1992, Nickelodeon launched their Saturday late-night block of shows that they labeled as Snick. For roughly 13 years, this became a destination television time for 90s kids. Then, on January 29th, 2005, Snick ended. In honor of the 20 years since Snick became a thing of the past, we at Geekscape combed through every Snick lineup to create our definitive list of top 10 Snick shows. We chose to not include shows like Rocko's Modern Life, Ah Real Monsters, or Doug that were Snick pre-show cartoons but only appeared in the 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. block on rare special occasions like Halloween or Thanksgiving-themed Snicks. And now, on with the list. Number 10. Angry Beavers. The Angry Beavers was briefly part of the Snick block from November 1998 until February 1999, so it counts, but it is worth noting that it might be the show with the shortest time in the Snick block. During its time on Snick, it exclusively played old episodes of the show, but it was also a key placement on how many of the longtime fans first discovered the show. It tells the tale of two Beaver brothers who relocate from their parents' home to live their lives as bachelors in Oregon. While it did fall in line with other Nicktoons by walking the line of adult humor, the show was in general far more safe than earlier shows like Rocko's Modern Life, Rugrats, and Ren and Stimpy. Number 9. KaBlam. Throughout 1997, the final show on Snick was the animated sketch show KaBlam. KaBlam was unique in the sense that it was the only Nicktoon designed specifically for Snick. The show was created by Will McRobb and Chris Viscardi, who were most famous for the adventures of Pete and Pete, as well as the nightmare fuel that was Inside Out Boy. The theme song was performed by the Toasters, and the entire score was ska influence, which captured the DIY roots that KaBlam was inspired by. It was definitely most remembered for its first season's collection of rotating shorts like Sniz and Fondue, Adventure League Now, Life with Loopy, Prometheus and Bob, and The Offbeats. It could be a safe assumption that KaBlam might be one of the most influential shows to run on Snick, as it showcased countless animation styles and undoubtedly inspired generations of artists to pursue indie animation. Number 8. Secret World of Alex Mack. From October 1994 until October 1996, Snick kicked off with The Secret World of Alex Mack in the 8 p.m. slot. Following a teenage girl, played by Clarissa Explains, who is accidentally drenched in an experimental substance that allows her to dissolve into a puddle, shoot electricity from her fingers, and gives her telekinesis. Over its 4-season run, it went from a lighthearted show about a teenager navigating unexplained powers in school to a much darker show about realizing that the CEO of a chemical factory is looking for her and could hurt her and all her loved ones if they find out who she is. The show set the standard for future shows of similar concept of teenager and extraordinary experiences like Space Cases, The Mystery Files of Shelby Woo, Animorphs, and The Journey of Alan Strange. Number 7. Rugrats. After being part of the Snick pre-show with Doug from when Snick launched in 1992, suddenly in the summer of 1997, Rugrats found itself in the main Snick block and stayed there until the fall of 2000, making it the longest-running animated show in the Snick lineup. Rugrats was a popular show right out of the gate in 1991 when it debuted along with Doug and Ren and Stimpy as one of the original Nicktoons. The show followed the lives of a group of babies who would get into adventures. As a kid, the comedy was primarily from the babies, but the older you get, the more you feel yourself connecting with the parents who are just trying to survive their early 30s. Yes, you heard that right. Most of the parents are supposed to be roughly 30 to 35. Given our demographic, that means there's a good chance that you, like myself, are older than Stu Pickles. We're sorry to break this news to you. Number 6. Kenan Kel. When All That first launched, the chemistry between Kel Mitchell and Kenan Thompson was undeniable. It became immediately clear in the first season that these two friends would go far and had potential to print money for Nickelodeon. On October 12, 1996, they were given a chance. Kenan Kel was the first spin-off show from All That was popular enough to run for 4 years on Snick. The popularity led to cameos from people like Ron Harper, Britney Spears, and Bob Eubanks, and even won the Favorite TV Show Award at the Kids' Choice Awards. While we knew these two were destined for great things, I don't think anyone knew how far Kenan's career would take him. Today, he's the longest tenured cast member in Saturday Night Live history, with multiple Emmy nominations. But don't worry, we all know who loved orange soda. Number 5, Ren and Stimpy. It is not a surprise that this was the cartoon that scored the highest with our team. Ren and Stimpy was one of the original Snick shows playing at 9 p.m. from 1992 until 1996. Ren and Stimpy was the brainchild of the demented John Kay, who was fired pretty soon after the show launched and was later outed for being a pretty terrible person. The show followed an emotionally unstable chihuahua named Ren and his friend/roommate, the dim-witted cat Stimpy. At the time the show debuted, it was considered one of the most shocking and edgy cartoons. It generated a lot of controversy for the dark adult humor hidden throughout the series. It ended its run in late 1995 and aired the final episode on MTV as it was deemed too adult for Nickelodeon. Number 4. All That. It's impossible to properly estimate how many kids were exposed to sketch comedy through All That, but I know that myself and Matt, who helped write the script, both considered it their gateway, and we can't be alone. The last year or so has been a really rough one for a specific Nickelodeon creative executive who launched the show, and while there's a long laundry list of negative things to say about him, you can't deny he had an eye for talent. The original cast of All That contains superstars like Kenan Thompson and another hit for kids, Kel Mitchell, and the success of Amanda Bynes, Gabriel Iglesias, and Nick Cannon seasons later can't be denied. But even the folks who didn't go on to megastars, the comedy chops of folks like Angelique Bates, Lori Beth Denberg, Katrina Johnson, and Josh Server, just to name a few, were undeniable and impressive, specifically for their ages at the time. You'd be hard-pressed to find a millennial who doesn't have a soft spot in their hearts for Good Burger, Ask Ashley, Detective Dan, Pierre Escargot, or Vital Information. The sketch series became so popular, even Chris Farley got in on the fun for an iconic episode. Number 3. Clarissa Explains It All. This was the first show of the first night of Snick and held that position until 1994. While the show didn't start as a Snick show, with the first season airing a year later, by the time the second season came around, it fully anchored itself as the Snick show. It's hard to explain to younger generations of kids the idea of must-see TV, but as a kid, when you heard the irresistible Clarissa Explains It All theme song, you rushed to the TV. The show was even a little serialized for its time, keeping you locked in to wondering what happens next for Clarissa as she navigated crushes, puberty, getting her driver's license, and preparing for college. It did something truly magical at the time. It managed to talk to kids where they were as opposed to talking down to them. Additionally, the show managed to avoid handing topics with too much drama like many of the contemporary shows at the time would do. This led to a beautiful and satisfying final episode when on October 1st, 1994, it became the first intentional series finale in Snick history. The episode, properly called the last episode, follows Clarissa as she completes an article for her newspaper dedicated to the future and finds herself wondering where all of her loved ones will be 20 years from now. We will try not to linger too much on the fact that the future she was imagining happened over a decade ago in 2014. Number 2. The Adventures of Pete and Pete. The first change to the Snick schedule happened in summer of 1994. After roughly 2 years as the second show on the schedule, Nickelodeon decided to end Roundhouse, and in its place was a show inspired by a series of interstitials titled The Adventures of Pete and Pete. If there was ever a show that aged better over time, it's Pete and Pete. The following statement is from Matthew Kelly. As a kid in 1994, I saw this as a weird show that I had to watch in order to see the new Ren and Stimpy, but as an adult, it's arguably the best show ever aired on Nickelodeon. The team behind the series crafted their own kids' version of Twin Peaks, where unexplained strange things happened, but it was just normal for Wellsville. Superheroes, cereals with marshmallow president heads, a quality inspector who takes his job just too seriously. These are normal occurrences in their town. It also contains one of the most impressive guest lists in Nickelodeon history, with cameos from Chris Elliott, Gordon Gano of Violent Femmes, Janine Garofalo, Debbie Harry, and Katie Pearson of the B-52s, just to name a few. The show has since developed a cult following, and if you haven't listened to the podcast, The Adventures of Danny and Mike, hosted by the actors who played the titular characters, you are missing out. Before we get to number 1, here's a few honorable mentions.
I'm Eddie McDowd. I'm a dog and I talk.
Hi, my name's Jake. I thought I knew who I was, a kid who liked to do normal things.
File it, don't read it.
And finally, number 1. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Was there ever a chance this wouldn't be the top spot? Snick did something magical when they greenlit DJ McHale's series, Are You Afraid of the Dark? It gave kids a scary show that was actually scary. We could easily just list a bunch of classic episodes, and don't think the top 10 Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes isn't on our future plans list already, but if you were there, you already know how good the show was. Every Saturday, kids across the USA tuned in to hear a new story from the Midnight Society. When the second episode, The Tale of the Laughing in the Dark, aired, it became very clear that they were not playing it around, and we were going to see some genuinely scary stories. Chances are, if you grew up in the 90s, you spent at least one night wide awake thinking about something you saw on that show. Didn't matter if it was the ghost of a freezing child, faceless aliens in the apartment above you, or trying to survive in a pinball machine version of your local mall. The series knew how to find childhood fears and exploit them to the glee of its adolescent viewers. So, how did we do? Would you put something else as the number 1 show? Was your favorite show not represented? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. My name is Katie Hampton. This script was written by Matthew Kelly, and from everyone at Geekscape, who loves orange soda?